everyone, this is Koyel Banerjee from Lead Blad. So today we are going to look into literary criticism part for our UGC NET JRF English exam, which is coming in December only. And from we will cover from ancient, medieval, and neoclassical part in today's video. After completion of this video, if you have any query or doubt, just let me know. You can reach me through my WhatsApp or just email me. All the information you can get in our description box. First, you will have the question, and in the next slide, you have the answer. So before going into the answer, just pause the video for a few seconds to answer the question if you want. Okay. And so let's start. And one more thing I want to tell you that I mean, from this ancient and medieval and neoclassical part, I made total 17 questions. But those questions are not strict that only these questions are important. No, you have to analyze these questions with their options as well. So that I am just going to give you a total overall idea that which is important. Okay, I hope you understand my view. Let's begin with our first question. It is from ancient criticism. So, which of the following best describes the critical position of Plotinus regarding the relationship of art to ultimate reality in contrast to Plato? Is it Plotinus views art as closer to the world of forms while Plato sees it as twice removed from reality? Option B, Plotinus argues that art, in its highest form, challenges Plato's theory by not merely imitating nature, means the world of appearances, but by taking its meaning directly from the transcendent and spiritual realm. Option C. Both philosophers agree that art is politically dangerous. Option D. Plato's concept is mimesis and Plotinus is catharsis. So which one is correct in your view? It is option B. Plotinus, he is actually a Neoplatonist. He elevates the status of art. While Plato saw art as an imitation of an imitation, means twice removed from the forms, Plotinus believes that the artist draws inspiration directly from the one or the spiritual realm, making art potentially closer to ultimate reality than physical nature itself. Now, this remember one point that this idea became foundational for Romanticism in the late 18th and 19th century, early 19th century, where the poet was celebrated as a genius or a creator within quote, with a powerful original imagination rather than a craftsman merely following rules or copying nature. Remember this point. So you have to analyze the options itself. Okay. Question number 2 is from the Horatian Ideal. Horatian Ideal for poetry, which advocates for blending moral instruction with aesthetic pleasure, is encapsulated in the phrase. So which phrase encapsulated the Horatian Ideal for poetry? Is it poesis kai catharsis, or is it util et dulci, decorum et verisimilitude, verisimilitude, or fantasia and mimesis? Just let me know which option is correct. It is really important to know, and important question also. So the option B is correct. Util et dulci, or you can say util et dulci. Both pronunciations are correct. You can just Google it. I mean the pronunciation. And this Latin phrase meaning useful and sweet or profit and delight, which summarizes Horace's goal for poetry. It should both instruct the reader morally and please them aesthetically. Okay, so this is the meaning for this Latin phrase. So, can we go in the other question? Question 3. According to Aristotle, in poetics, the tragic hero falls from prosperity to adversity, not due to vice or depravity, but due to a certain error of frailty or you can say a mistake of judgment, termed as. So it is actually the question itself a definition of something. So you have to guess which one is that. Hamartia, hubris, anagnorisis, peripecia. Which one? It is really easy and you have to know about Aristotle poetics, right? Not only Aristotle poetics, other works you have to also see. So the option A is the correct, hamartia. Hamartia is a term for the error, mistake or fault that leads to the hero's downfall. While often translated as tragic flaw, it refers more specifically to a mistake in judgment rather than a moral defect. So it is also a definition of hamartia. Please remember other key terms as well, like the hubris, anagnorisis, peripecia. Anagnorisis means the moment of recognition or discovery where the hero moves from ignorance to knowledge of a critical fact. Okay. And peripecia is the sudden reversal of fortune, means the action turning in the opposite direction. And hubris, while often a feature of tragic heroes, it is usually translated as excessive pride or arrogance, and it can be a cause of hamartia. But it is not the term Aristotle used for the error of judgment itself. So it is not used by Aristotle. Remember that point as well. Okay. Next question is from sources of sublimity. It is from Longinus. In Longinus on the Sublime, we all know which of the following is an accurate source of sublimity in contrast to innate sources like grandeur of thought and vehement and inspired passion. Is it figures of thought, grandeur of thought, vehement and inspired passion, innate nobility of spirit? So which one is correct? Tick tick 1, tick tick 2. So the correct option is figures of thought. So Longinus divides the 5 sources of sublimity into 2 groups. Innate means the grandeur of thought and passion, and acquired or technical, figures of thought and speech, novel diction and dignified composition. So these are two, groups which Longinus divided his 5 sources of sublimity. Okay, if you want to know more about this, please read extra. Okay, now we have covered a few questions, important questions from ancient criticism, and you have to know more from those questions. Now we are going into medieval criticism. Are you ready? Yes, you do. So it is from something from T.S. Eliot is related to. T.S. Eliot famously quotes 2 phrases from this text in the Wasteland. Which 2 phrases? To Carthage, then I came burning. O Lord, thou pulkest me out. Which of St. Augustine's works described his conversation and condemned liberal studies? So, which text is it by St. Augustine? City of God, De Doctrina Christiana, Confessions, Inlays. Which one? I know you can answer it if you read the wasteland properly. It is option C, Confessions. Confessions. It was written by Saint Augustine, something between 397 or 400 AD. It is autobiography detailing his sinful youth and conversion to Christianity. The quoted lines reflect his moral and spiritual turmoil, used by T.S. Eliot to emphasize the spiritual desolation of the modern world. Okay? Now, the question number 6. So, which of the following is not one of the three requirements for beauty or aesthetic values developed by Thomas Aquinas? It is really important to know. Option A, integritas or the wholeness, consonantia or the harmony, mimesis or the imitation. Option D, claritas or radiance. Which one is not one of the three requirements for beauty? It is mimesis or imitation. Mimesis is an ancient Greek concept related to Plato and Aristotle. We all know, right? It is about, this theory is about the creation or the relationship of art. Means art imitates nature. Aquinas' three requirements for beauty are integrators, wholeness or unity, harmony or proportion, radiance or clarity of form. These three concepts are famously adapted by whom? Stephen Dedalus in James Joyce's Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man. This is a very important point to know. You know, Stephen Dedalus, the character, adopts and secularizes these three terms to form the basis of his aesthetic theory in the novel itself. Okay, next question from Dante Alighieri. In which of Dante Alighieri's works does he set forth his theory of four levels of meaning in a text? Which are four levels of meaning? Literal, allegorical, moral, and anagogical. Yeah. In Divina Commedia, De Vulgari Eloquentia, Convivio, La Vita Nova. Which work is it? Literal, allegorical, moral, anagogical. It is convivio. Dante details the fourfold method of scriptical interpretation, which he applies to his poetry as well, in the second treatise of his philosophical work, Convivio, or in English it is The Banquet. This model was central to medieval hermeneutics. Okay, this is really important to know. Literal meaning means the surface. Okay, the surface historical of the narrative story being told. Uh, Allegorical, the hidden truth veiled beneath the literal lie, often philosophical or political. Moral, the ethical lesson or rule of life that readers should take away from their own conduct. And anagogical, the spiritual or mystical meaning related to humanity's eternal state or divine destiny. Okay, I hope I made it clear to you. Just remember to read extra. Another question is here. Arrange the following figures. It is chronological question. So please try to, practice more chronological question, whether it is birth related or text publication related, anything. Okay. Arrange the following figures in the correct chronological order for their birth. Okay. Earliest to latest. It is easy. Remember, not only hard or difficult questions will be there in the exam, right? Some easy question also will be there, but sometimes we made mistake in that part as well because of our nervousness. So be calm and try to answer it. So Thomas Aquinas, Saint Augustine, Sir Philip Sidney, Ben Jonson, it is easy to guess, right? If you know who is from which era, you can guess it easily. So the correct answer is first come Saint Augustine 354 AD, Thomas Aquinas 1225 AD, Sir Philip Sidney 1554 AD, and then last but not the least, Ben Jonson 1572 AD. Okay, will you remember it? Okay, so now we have covered a few important questions from medieval literary criticism as well. Now we will be going into, sorry, one more question is there. I forgot. Sorry. So the last question from medieval period is the flourishing of scholar scholasticism during the 12th century Renaissance was characterized by, you have to guess the characteristic. A complete rejection of classical texts in favor of Christian scripture, an emphasis on legal, logical, and rationalistic issues at the expense of literary or aesthetic concern, a focus on the autonomy of the text or close reading, the development of vernacular language for poetry. So, which one is correct? Tick tick one, tick tick two. It is option B. So, scholasticism primarily focused on synthesizing classical or Aristotelian logic with Christian theology, emphasizing rational debate, law, and rhetoric over purely aesthetic or literary analysis for poetry. Will you remember this? I hope you do. It is really also important. Now we are moving into neoclassical criticism, where we have big names like John Dryden, Alexander Pope, and of course the Dr. Samuel Johnson, right? The first question from neoclassical criticism is, neoclassicism, in contrast to the Renaissance emphasis on invention and creativity, traced the view of literary composition as highly individualistic and based on sublime inspiration, spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings, rational and rule bound, the result of craft, labor, and study, an imitation of the ultimate world of forms. So, which one is correct? It is option C, rational and rule bound, the result of craft, labor, and study. Remember, the neoclassical period 1660 to 1798 emphasized restraint, reason, rules like the unities, and the imitation of classical models, viewing writing as a disciplined craft rather than a spontaneous act of genius, which is a romantic view. We all know this. This is a view of Wordsworth, Coleridge, and others romantic poets, but neoclassical is bit different, right? So critics like Dryden or Pope believe that true genius lay not in breaking the mold, but in mastering the universal rules of art derived from classical master, means the ancient. Means art was seen as a product of careful labor, structured craft, and adherence to principles like decorum or the unities. Okay. So this is the primary basis of neoclassical criticism. In Dryden's an essay of dramatic poesy, very important, you should look into it. At least the summary and the four characters it has. An essay of dramatic poesy, here the character who argues for superiority of English drama, especially Shakespeare, over the French, despite their violation of the three unities. So who is the character? There are four characters, right? Crites, Eugenius, Lycidius, and Neander. I hope you all know this. And this is easy, but still, this is critical. Okay. So who argues for the superiority of English drama? It is Neander, who is Dryden himself. So Neander is widely accepted as the persona of John Dryden himself. He champions the vitality and the variety of English plays, particularly their superior representation of human nature, even while acknowledging the formal perfection of the French. Please remember and please read about these four characters and their views. And in the comment box, just let me know what is the publication year of an essay of dramatic poesy. Okay, this is your text. Next question is from Johnson and his comment on tragicomedy. So, in his preface to Shakespeare, Samuel Johnson defends William Shakespeare's use of tragicomedy by arguing what? Tragicomedy reflects the real state of sublunary nature where pleasure and pain are mingled. Shakespeare wrote in an age before the rules of genre purity were established. The mixture of genres is a necessary evil to satisfy the vulgar audience. Tragicomedy is a superior form because it satisfies the intellect. Please remember whatever options I am giving or whatever questions I am giving, read extra on this. Okay, you have to know more and more from this neoclassical criticism specifically, at least from Dryden, Johnson, and Pope. Hmm? So here the answer is option A. Tragicomedy reflects the real state of sublunary nature where pleasure and pain are mingled. Johnson's defense is empirical. Since life itself is a mixture of tragedy and comedy, an art form that reflects this mixture actually achieves greater realism and mimesis of nature than one that rigidly separates them. Okay, so this is his defense. So please read extra about Johnson and Dryden. I am repeating because these are really important. Arrange the following critical text in order of their publication. Still, I am saying it is easy, but you have to know more about the options. John Dryden, an essay of dramatic poesy, an essay on criticism by Pope, preface to Shakespeare, Johnson. This is easy here. Why did I give this? But sometimes we need it, right? We need to refresh ourselves. So the correct chronological order of these critical works is Restoration period is Dryden, first came Dryden, and then Pope, and then Johnson. So it is 1, 2, 3, right? Yeah. Johnson refuted the argument for the necessity of the unities of time and place in drama. His central argument against the unity of place was what? Time and place unities are merely custom, not logic. Drama is a delusion, and if the audience can imagine one place, they can as well imagine several. The pleasure of variety outweighs the pleasure of verisimilitude. The unities are only a concern for French audiences. So it is option B. Drama is a delusion. And if the audience can imagine one place, they can as well imagine several. So it is actually correct. Right? I support this view. This is Johnson's famous argument based on the willing suspension of disbelief. Since the audience knows the stage is not a real place, the requirement to adhere strictly to one location is illogical. If the audience concede the first small deception, they will consider larger one. Right? So the audience knows they are watching a play, relying on their imagination for the initial leap of faith. So the stage is any place. If the audience is willing to grant the initial delusion that the stage is a Troy, I am just giving an example, they are certainly able to grant the greater delusion that time has passed or the scene has shifted to a different location. So the rule of unity of place therefore imposes an unnecessary constraint on the poet. I hope it is clear to you. Next question also from an essay from of dramatic poesy. In here, Neander defends Shakespeare's use of subplots, which violates the strict unity of action, by suggesting that. So, what is his defense? The variety of a double plot provides more delight and instruction. English audiences have a shorter attention span than French ones. The unity of action is not a rule derived from Aristotle. Subplots are merely a minor fault. So, which one is correct? Option A. Neander argues that a single action, as favored by the French, can become monotonous. The double plot, by providing variety, offers greater intellectual stimulus and moral scope, thus delivering more delight and instruction. Right? Actually, Neander, which is Dryden himself, his defense circles back to the Horatian idyll. That one, Utel et Dulce, right? He argued that the single plot of French drama often became monotonous and offered limited scope of moral learning. Which of the following sets of values best characterizes the neoclassical period in contrast to romanticism? Option A, subjectivity, spontaneity, emotion. Individualism, invention, mixed genres. Objectivity, rationality, decorum, harmony. Imagination, infinite potential, aesthetic of opposition. If you know only one period well, then you can answer it easily. You know, we have to odd one out. Do like this, odd one out. Okay. So option C is the correct. This set, objectivity, rationality, decorum, harmony, emphasizes reason, universal truth, correctness of style or subject, and the formal balance, all central tenets of neoclassicism and direct contrast to the values of romanticism, which are option A, B, and D. So, here we are coming into the last question of today's session, and this is from aesthetics of familiarity. The neoclassical aesthetic that dictates we find beauty in the familiar, we like art that is like what we have seen before, is termed by the document as aesthetics of opposition, aesthetics of identity, decorum, or mimesis. This is, I know you know. Just try to find your tick tick one, tick tick two, and here is the answer. Aesthetics of identity. It describes the neoclassical preference for the familiar, typical, and universally accepted, where arts gains approval by conforming to established models or general human nature. This contrasts with the romantic aesthetics of opposition, which values the new, strange, and original. I hope you understand this. Okay. If you don't, just let me know. You can find the details to contact me in the description box. So, all the best for your exam. Keep practicing and revising these foundational concepts. Thank you.